Good afternoon and welcome to Theresa Amato. Qui io metterò una breve, a brief description, okay, from your CV. We have read lots of information about what the United States are doing to protect citizens' rights after this crisis period. Now we are really interested in your meeting with Mrs. Elizabeth Warren. May you describe us who is she and what are the main challenges that she will have to face?
Yes, well, last year the United States Congress passed an act called the Dodd-Frank Act, and that's named after Senator Dodd and Representative Barney Frank. And the act was designed to help reform the financial crisis in the United States. One portion of that act was to set up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this was very important because currently in the United States, protections of consumers is spread out amongst 7 or more federal agencies. And unfortunately, not one single agency places consumers as the top priority of that agency. So, for example, the Federal Reserve Bank or the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, does not really place the consumer as its primary concern. They're often catering to the financial industry and the banks. So what this law does is it sets up a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And it was originally activists pushed to have this as an independent agency, but as a compromise it became a bureau, and it's a bureau within the Federal Reserve. As such, the one advantage of having it housed in the Federal Reserve is that it is able to retain a portion of the Federal Reserve's budget for its activities. And so every year it will not have to go through Congress and the regular appropriations process in order to be able to get its budget. So its budget is a guarantee as part of the Federal Reserve. However, there have been some attempts to try to undermine that process and to require the Consumer Protection Bureau, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, to go through the political appropriations process. Currently, what has happened is that the Bureau is supposed to be up and running by July 21st, I believe, of this upcoming year. And President Obama did not appoint Elizabeth Warren, whose idea, this is sort of her brainchild, as the head of the agency, and instead appointed her as a special advisor within the Department of the Treasury. And so it does not have a permanent head at the moment, but her task is to create the agency, get it up and running so that it can start functioning by July of this year, 2011.
Great, thanks. And what are your main activities to protect citizens in the past crisis period and to avoid that all that happened will repeat again?
Right. Well, that is one of the mandates of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And the problem, there are many problems. And amongst those problems is we've had a mortgage foreclosure crisis with up to 14 million American families potentially may lose their homes. And in addition to that, we've had an incredible amount of personal debt that people find on their credit cards, in large part because they don't understand the terms of how these kinds of finances work. And in the United States, these are written in fine print. We call it the mice print, and it's often not explained. So a lot of people don't read these terms. That's the first problem. The second, it's almost not even rational to read them because it's so time-consuming and so complicated people can't understand them. And furthermore, what's been allowed is that the vendors, be they mortgages or credit card companies or other types of vendors, have been allowed to change the terms of the contracts. And so that is very disturbing because even if you understand what is in your initial contract, the terms of that contract can change.
Yeah.
So consumers have had a very hard time vis-a-vis understanding what their obligations are under these various contracts, and that's something that we work on at CitizenWorks in the Fair Contracts Project, but also because of the fine print. And Elizabeth Warren, who is setting up the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, she's called it the shrubbery for muggers. And I like that image because we often think of street crimes and whatnot, but in effect what has happened is that so many consumers have suffered from these various protocols that just are not fair to the consumer in the United States. And as a consequence, we have a number of problems in people trying to just maintain their daily existence because they are burdened by so much debt. They're at the threat of losing their homes and having personal bankruptcies.
That's one of the great
I should
problems.
also mention one of the problems, and one of the things people tend to put on their credit cards is health care, because unlike in most of the countries in the European Union, the United States does not have a single-payer public system, and so the private insurance and the debt that consumers, citizens end up with because of their medical bills, they tend to put on their credit card, and that in large part has spiraled and hurt them tremendously.
This news is really important to us because we are now discussing about cross-border patients' rights. So we are looking forward to see a new system of health protection, which may be private. So we are discussing about this. This is important to study American states because you are a benchmark for us.
Well, you don't want our system. Trust me. You don't want our system in the sense that the cost is spiraling and the insurance premiums are out of control for most consumers. It's very difficult. I'm not talking about the quality of the health care delivered. I'm talking about the cost for the health care delivered.
Thanks.
The quality is excellent in many respects.